Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sisters in Crime Atlanta's Off the Shelf. I am Dawn Gepfer, your host of today's program, and I want to tell you a little bit about Sisters in Crime before we get started. It is an international organization that was founded to support and promote the professional development and advancement of women crime writers. Since it was since its inception in 1986, which was 39 years ago, membership has expanded to include all genders and focuses on any and all who support the mission of advocacy for equality in mystery and crime writing publishing. Members include writers, those who are published and those who aspire to be, and editors, librarians, agents, booksellers, but most importantly, membership includes readers. And why are readers so important? Readers are so important because where is a book without a reader? Well, it's on the shelf, and our goal today is to get our guest authors' books off the shelf. Before we get started, I want to just encourage everybody to please participate in this conversation. It is not meant to be just between me and our guest. We would love it if you have questions or comments to either chime in directly, feel free, or raise your virtual hand. We'll call on you. Or if you don't want to speak up, which we understand, you can put your question or comment in the chat box, and one of us will ask your question or make your comment for you on your behalf. And so, without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's guest author. We are welcoming Heather Weidner here today. She is the author of 4 mystery series: the Pearly Girls Mysteries, the Delanie Fitzgerald Mysteries, the Jules Keen Glamping Mysteries, and the Mermaid Bay Christmas Shop Mysteries. She is a member of Sisters in Crime, the Grand Canyon Writers, the International Thriller Writers, and James River Writers. When she is not writing mysteries, she is a regular blog contributor for Writers Who Kill, and she lives in Central Virginia with her husband and a couple of dogs. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. How are y'all?
I am great. So welcome today. We're so glad that you agreed to be on our program, and I'm very excited to chat with you, especially hearing about these multiple series that you write. I can just imagine what fun that is. But before we get there, we'll definitely talk about your writing. But before we get there, I want to know a little bit more about you and who you are, aside from what I can read about you on your book jacket bio.
Book check. Okay. Well, I think all of this started because I'm a CK. I'm a cops kid. And it was cool that you were telling me earlier too that you were, so we've bonded. We know, I understand. It's a special life. I never knew that people did not talk about murder, death, mayhem, stupid crook stories at the dinner table until I got to college. And then I found out they didn't, and they were kind of shocked. And this was before, true crime was very popular and it was on TV. Now everybody talks about it, in conversation. But back then, I mean, I was the only 6-year-old I knew that knew how to make bullets for the SWAT team. We melted down my crayons and we made bullets because it was way before paintball and they didn't have things like that. So yeah, he used my crayons. We used to use this night scope in the backyard, checking out the neighbor's dog. I mean, it wasn't a normal childhood, but it was great. It was fun.
And where did you grow up?
In Virginia Beach. So it really wasn't a small town, but it had small town qualities because it had been a county years before and it had merged and become the city of Virginia Beach. So, and it's a tourist area. So you end up with a lot of folks in the summer. The population doubles or triples, and we had the Navy. So it was a fun place to grow up.
And have you always lived in Virginia?
I have, and I write all of my stories actually are set in Virginia because we're kind of on the path to other places, really, because we're on the I-95 corridor and the I-81 and the I-64 corridor. So people are going somewhere, either north, south, east, or west. And we've got mountains 2 hours away. We've got Washington, D.C. We've got the beaches. So it is a fun place.
How close is DC to where you
Uh,
are or
two and
where
a
you
half
live?
hours, maybe three, two and a half
Mhm.
on a good day.
That can be a daily commute for me back and forth to work.
Oh,
Two
wow.
and a half hour
No,
commute
actually,
to
there are
downtown
people
Atlanta.
here in Central Virginia that do commute on the train. And I'm thinking,
Okay.
wow, that's a long commute, but you could read. So
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
I wonder how long it is by train.
It's a little bit longer because it does stop
Okay,
everywhere.
yeah, yeah. We actually took the train from Atlanta
Mhm.
to DC. It
Oh,
was an
cool.
overnight thing.
Uh-huh.
We did that to visit family. We have family in DC, and we thought we would have an adventure.
Oh, I bet it was. See?
Well, it kinda was. It was an uncomfortable
But
adventure.
ideas for stories, though. You never know.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Do you walk around going, I could put a body in there? That looks dangerous.
My son slept great, me, not so much, but it
Mm,
was a lot of fun. It was, and but like I said, it was overnight, so it was
mhm.
obviously, what, multiple hours.
Oh,
All right,
mhm,
so
mhm.
you grew up in Virginia Beach, which sounds great, and also tell us about when you got out of high school, like, what was your life? Did you go to college?
Oh, I did. And I wanted to be a teacher. Always wanted to
Oh,
be a teacher.
mhm.
Got to my student teaching and realized they did not all want to sit in there and talk about Shakespeare at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was an adventure. I had one mother tell me he was my problem while he was in school. And I went, oh, okay. I had several conversations with coaches for athletes that failed English.
Right, right.
And it's a really tough job. And I admire teachers and they are my heroes. And I do go back and I've taught college and I go back and teach. I teach it tech courses at a senior center. So that's always fun. So
Mhm.
that gets me back into the teaching. But I ended up as a technical writer who landed in IT, and I've been there now for 26 years. I'm an IT manager, and it took a weird turn. And I thought, how in the world did I get here? But it was during the .com bubble, and everybody needed copy. So here I am, and I stayed, and I do quality assurance and IT governance for our IT department. So
Mhm.
it's been a wild ride, but they give me good material, and there's
Mhm.
always somebody to talk about the latest security breach or what hackers are doing. So that's always fun.
So when you were teaching, you taught high school
I,
before you made a change. You
I
were a high
did.
school.
I did middle school and then high school.
Okay.
And we were in a bar one night in Virginia Beach with a bunch of friends, and a couple of my students walked in on fake IDs, and I'm like, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I know you're not old enough to be in here.
Wow, so I have a good friend who is a teacher. She teaches high school, and when she doesn't want to go out locally because she doesn't want to run into her students or her students' parents, so we have to be
Ah,
very, very considerate of that. And I think if I were a teacher, I probably would think of that, but not being one, that had never
okay.
crossed my mind when she and I are planning our socializing. So,
I never did that as a teacher, but I go back to the cops kid thing. My dad
mhm.
and the beach and all the bars and all the clubs and all the fun places you can get in trouble. He was very protective, and I didn't understand back then what he knew and what he saw that he didn't really talk about. But his men were bouncers at just about every club, so it's kind of hard to be incognito when they go, "Hey, captain's daughter." I'm like, "Yeah, hi, nice to see you."
So
So
you wanted to be a teacher, and that's why you went to college to be a teacher, and in particular an English
English.
teacher.
Mhm.
And so what was it about the draw of teaching English, do you think, that sent you in that direction
Um,
initially?
I have always loved to read. I mean, I've oh, ever since I was little, and it started out, Scooby Doo and Nancy Drew, and then those were just gateway books to Agatha Christie and mystery. I mean, I read everything, and I love lots of different genres, but I always come back to mysteries. And I thought, maybe I should try writing one of these. And I started, and it sat in a drawer for years and years, and it'll probably never see the light of day, but I finished it. So that was a good start, and I proved that I could do it. So it's like, all right, now let's try it again. But I needed some guidance, and that's where Sisters in Crime came in. I saw an advertisement in our local paper for a chapter, and I thought, and it was the best decision I ever made, because that was my first publishing credit, was in one of their anthologies. And the people were so generous, no matter, and I hope it's like that in all the chapters. I think it is, because the mystery community is amazing. But people are so generous with their time and their talents, and they're willing to help pre-published and wannabe and almost published and thinking about being published authors.
Mhm.
And so it's great.
I agree. And I am a reader, not a writer. Maybe someday I'll be
Yeah.
a writer, but for now I'm quite content to be a reader. And I'm in the local Sisters in Crime chapter, and I enjoy my friends. I've become friends with writers, and I agree. They are very helpful. They're encouraging. Um, it's a wonderful community, so I totally agree with you, and that's just a plug right there for anybody who's not a writer that, but enjoys mysteries, that, yeah, check out your local Sisters in Crime chapter, because we are great. We're a great group.
Oh, and we had a critique group, and that was one of the best things, because it was half writers, half readers. And they're very perceptive, and they're like, nah, this is never going to fly. Or why did you do this? Or she had lunch twice in this chapter. And I'm like, thank you. I need somebody to go behind me, because sometimes I don't pick up on things.
Yeah, I will tell you one of my favorite chapter meetings, we haven't done this in a while that I've been able to attend, but we did critiques, and the writers brought just like a few pages, and I was that person you were just
Good.
describing. And I'm like, why did she go over there? Like or why did she and her friend get in an argument, or whatever, like, yeah, that was me. That was me
That
for
was
sure.
so helpful. And that helped me get to beta writers and, other people that can help me with, because an editor is great and they're awesome and they handle the proofreading and the structure. But sometimes the details, like, why is she eating a cheese sandwich again? Does this woman ever eat salads? She only drinks Coca-Cola. And I'm like, no, that's not true. But okay.
Yeah, yeah, she's always eating candy, and yet she's thin. You
Yeah,
said she's thin.
very thin, very thin.
Yeah, how does that work?
High metabolism. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your career a little bit. You've kinda touched on it, um, but before you started writing so much, but, because I have to say, you have one of the best bios on your website
Thank you.
that I've ever read. So I wanna share it here. And it is that through the years, Heather Weidner has been a cops kid, a technical writer, editor, college professor, software tester, and IT manager. That is a let's walk us through it. So we started out, I think, as a teacher when you graduated, right?
Huh? I was 4. I was going to be a teacher. I had the chalkboard in my bedroom. I mean, I was going to be a teacher. I knew it. I didn't know any I mean, my dad taught part-time at college level, but I just was going to be a teacher. My teachers were my heroes. I mean, they're awesome. They train everybody.
Mm,
This is great. And that's what I wanted. I just didn't realize, and I don't think the school really prepped, because the staff they had there in the college had stars in their eyes, and they're all want to be there. They want to listen. They want to learn. They want to be, just the best students ever. And I'm like, that's not exactly how they were in the 90s. They were a little wild. And yeah, so that was eye-opening. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm spending all my time disciplining. I'm not getting to
mhm,
teach. I don't really. So I said, well, I need to try something. And then the technical writing avenue opened up. So
mhm,
and that's basically teaching. You're writing manuals and you're explaining things to people,
mhm.
which is fun. And then that rolled into testing, because I found out when I worked in an IT department, they didn't have anybody to test it. And they kept saying, how come you find all the mistakes when we're ready to go live? And I'm like, well, who tested it? And they're like, nobody. Well, you want to think about it? And so we started a testing, and then we started bringing in more IT governance. And so It's been a wild ride. And everybody always asks that. How did an English major with 2 degrees in American literature end up in IT? And
Mhm.
I said, I'm not sure, but it's been a great ride.
Well, and I think you've explained the
Yeah.
transition pretty well. There was maybe wanting a change and here
Mhm.
was an opportunity and you're saying, I can do that. I have this education that yes, allows me to teach, but it also I know how to write.
Right.
And so, yeah. So I think
Oh,
it makes sense.
and I'm Nancy Drew every day when we do software testing because you're looking for that bug and you're trying to recreate it. And it's like, okay, the thing is doing this. Why is it doing that? So I like to think I'm Nancy Drew some days.
That's cute. That's super cute. Okay, so you mentioned American literature before we
Mhm.
get over there. I'm going back a little bit.
That's okay.
So, as an American lit educated in American literature, are there any particular authors that you like, or you think everyone, being a former teacher, everyone should read a particular
Oh,
notorious
I get started
American
and it's like, oh, Jane Austen, Dickens, Fitzgerald, Hemingway, Brown. I mean, just the list
Mhm,
goes on and on and on. And
mhm,
people are like, okay, here she goes again. I'm like, well, but you have to read. And I talk to
mhm.
writers about that a lot. You do have to read because you need to know what's out there. You need to know the rules, but if you're going to break them, you need to know the rules before you break them
Yeah.
and things like that.
Mhm,
So, yeah.
mhm,
And hopefully, I like pop culture too. So I try to bring in the pop culture and the literature and
mhm.
the uh, Jules in the glamping series, she decorates all of the trailers that she upscales. And so each one of those has a theme. So I always, I get to bring out the literature and the pop culture and I slip it in here and there.
So, remaining true to your original passion. So, okay, so now let's get into writing. And somewhere along the way in this pretty exciting, believe it or not, I know you probably don't think it's exciting, but very fascinating career
I hope.
transition. Somewhere along the way, you said you've been in IT now for 26 years. But somewhere along the way, you started writing to publish. You started writing as more than just a hobby. So where were you in your life, in your career? What was happening that finally was the step you took?
I had dabbled even in my teen years. There were manuscripts, and then in college, and then I started. The best course I ever took at Virginia Wesleyan was mystery and detective fiction.
Mm.
Dr. Magnus, and it was I mean, wait, I get to read mysteries for an entire semester and pass an exam and a final. This is great. So that was like the best course ever. And that introduced me to different types of because before I typically read male writers and that
Mm.
was it. And then it's like, wait, there are a lot of female writers and a whole lot of underrepresented writers that are amazing. And so that opened that up and the library card. And I mean, I've had that ever since I was 4. So I love my library cards and my librarians and bookstore owners who have all these great recommendations, of which I have a pile behind me that is just a stack. And I'll get to it probably, maybe, I don't know, but you can never have enough books, right?
I agree. I agree. Someone said it's not hoarding if it's books. And I
Totally.
agree with that. Yeah.
And
And
we
that
don't have too many books. We just don't have enough bookshelves. That's all. That's my problem.
exactly. Exactly. I'm getting a bookshelf from a friend. She's
Okay.
holding it for me because I need another bookshelf. I've got stacks on the floor that are
Mhm.
growing. So, okay. So let's talk about again, where like I I get that you've always dabbled in writing, but again,
Oh.
somewhere along the way, you took the next step. It was no longer just dabbling. It was actually writing.
Mhm. And it was after grad school, I'd started outlining and writing, and I was going to do this. Well, then I got on this kick where I had to read every book that I could possibly find about writing because obviously there was a secret there and I needed to know it. And I bought all these books, and my husband started laughing at me. He goes, all right, when are you going to stop reading about writing and actually write?
Mhm.
And I'm like, all right, that was hurts, but okay, I get it. You're right. You're exactly right. And that's about the time I saw the Sisters in Crime ad. And it's like, hey, I want to hang out with other writers. And they are. It is so inspiring. I leave those meetings and it's like, yep, get yourself back to work and get writing.
Mm.
Is I still have the day job, so my life is pretty scheduled. I mean, it's get up, write, go to work, write, write at lunch.
Mhm.
And then if I hit my word count, then I'm done. If not, then there's more writing. But it's a lot of fun and I enjoy it. And I owe it to Sisters in Crime because we put the anthology together and that was my first traditionally published credit. And I milked that short story for a year and a half. It was the only thing on my website, but that's okay.
Uh,
It's okay.
so, f for get let's transition into your first series, which I believe was the Delanie Fitzgerald
Mhm, mhm.
series, and so tell us about starting that first book.
It was a labor of love. It was one of those hobby things that started out originally. So it took 5 years to write, and then it took another 2 years to get published.
Okay.
And I didn't have an agent then, and I would do well, first it was letters. That tells you how old I am. Then it switched over to emails, and I just do the shotgun approach. And it was like, I'm sending these out, 50 a week. And sometimes you would hear back and sometimes you wouldn't. And sometimes they'd ask for pages and I'd get all excited and never hear anything. Or, well, it's not really what we want right now. So I found a smaller publisher that did not require an agent and went that route. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And I learned a lot from Sisters in Crime and my writer friends about, oh, you need to be doing this and you need to be doing this, and these wonderful, wonderful mystery writers up in Massachusetts, the Wickeds. One of the members was in Chessie, which is the Chesapeake chapter of. It's another. We have another Virginia. We have actually 3 chapters of Sisters in Crime in Virginia. And she said, no, 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 that's not how we all got our agent. This is what we did. And then she had an outline that she used. And she goes, I don't mind sharing it with you. And I said, well, you're amazing. And she goes, do it all. Stop reading the writing books, sit down, fill out the outline, which it made me do a synopsis, and it made me think about titles and is this going to be part of a series and where would I put it on a bookshelf, and things that a publisher or an agent may never ask you, but it's good to think about and have it in your back pocket. So I worked through it and it took me months to get it organized. And she said, do your homework, go look and see who's representing whom and who represents cozies and where do you want to be and who's selling and who's not selling. And so I did. For 2 years, I read every cozy I could get my hands on. And I just tore apart the acknowledgments pages and wrote down agents and editors and started looking them up and seeing what they were doing. And it was really amazing. So I targeted and I said, all right, this time I'm going to really look for an agent. I picked 5 and I sent it out and I got 3 acceptances. And then I actually got to pick the one that I wanted from the 3. So that was just amazing, especially after the whole shotgun experience that went on for 10 years and never
Mhm.
accomplished anything. So, yes, I think just being around other writers and listening to their
Mhm.
advice,
Ver
it's just fabulous.
Yeah, so so the book that took you 5 years to write, and then 2 years you said to actually get published, that was the first Delanie Fitzgerald?
Yes, and so
Okay.
there's 4 in that series, and
Mhm.
those are now independently published because I got my rights back, and I
I
said,
see.
I'm not done with those." And then my agent said, "Well, they're kinda neat." So she sold the audio rights, she sold the book club rights to Harlequin, and then she sold something else. So it's like, that first series did me well. It
Mhm.
keeps it's still alive.
But you're not writing Delanie right now.
I
She's
keep
not
saying I'm gonna.
gone.
No, she's not gone. I didn't end it, so I still
Mhm.
always thought there'd be a 5th book, so it's
Mhm.
there. I just have to finish all the books I'm under contract for.
Well, that's where we're headed next. We're gonna talk
Uh,
about the other series. So, but going back to the Delanie Fitzgerald, one of the things that's different from the next 3 series is, and Heather and I chatted about this before we went live, was that I had mistakenly put on the Facebook page that she was the author of 4 cozy series. And then I realized as I was doing some research that actually Delanie Fitzgerald series is she's a PI, which
Mhm.
disqualifies her from being a cozy because typically a cozy is an amateur, right? And
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
okay. So so you started out with a PI, and then somewhere along the way you said, I really want to do something more on the amateur side. So what was that transition, or what was the jumping off point for your next series that you started writing?
See, I still consider, I mean, I know the rules and Delanie's traditional, she's a private eye, but in my head, it's still cozy-esque or cozy-like because there is murder and there's mayhem, but it's not gory and there's not a lot of language and there's no violence that's overt. And she gets into way more trouble than I do. I mean, she just runs into trouble. Not half the time she didn't think and she just does it. And that kind of got me thinking. Well, I went to Malice Domestic for the very first time up in Bethesda. And that is an amazing conference if you have never been. If you love
Mhm.
cozy mysteries in any form or fashion, that's your place. I go every year. And it's like one big party. I'm fangirl one minute and I'm sitting there having lunch with somebody and I'm like, I've read your book since the 80s and I don't want to say it out loud because they'll both know how old we are. But it's like it is amazing. And so that just got me excited. And I'm thinking, I'm a normal person. I did live in the house with a police officer and I do have some inside information. I know how they talk. I know what a police car smells like. I mean, there's just some things that I know how to get out of zip ties, but I'm a normal person. And I think if I were in a real situation like some of my sleuths, I'd probably run. I'm like, what would I do? And she has to use what she has when there's a confrontation. I mean,
Mhm,
she knocks the guy out with a frying pan and, it's whatever is handy. So
mhm.
it just made more sense to me because I didn't have to really do, I mean, none of my friends run around in stilettos or with AK-47s or anything like that. So
So it's just more of a everyman type process. Every
it,
girl,
every
sorry.
girl, yeah, that's right.
So was the Jules Keen the next
It was.
series you started? Tell
And
us about that.
my husband loves older cars. He loves to rebuild and he gets them sometimes and they're from a barn or they've been out in the woods. And he's like, isn't it great? And I'm like, yeah. The last one he did, he had to buy 2 cars to make enough to put 1 car together. But he's always watching car shows and these rehabs. And there was one in California and they took old nasty trailers from the 30s and 40s and just turned them into these amazing decorated uh, they were monstrosities when they finished with them and I'm sure they were just so valuable. It was amazing. I thought that would be fun because my aunt and uncle owned a campground in the 70s up in near the waterfall in Charlottesville,
Mm,
and that was fun and I would love going up there, but I thought, wow, if it's glamping, it's glamorous camping, we could have wine chillers and they could be themed and then we could have all kinds of programming like Shakespeare festivals and rodeos come to town or all these exciting fun things that because when you're in a small little town you start killing off people, you run off, you run out of population sometimes, so it's got to be like Father Brown where there's always a carnival coming to town
mm,
or um, a conference or something
mhm.
exciting.
Okay, so that was the Jules Keen
Hmm.
Glamping series, and there's 4 books in that series as well?
There'll be 6 on this contract, and then
Okay,
we're going to do 3 more after that. So,
okay. But
so
right now, how many are published?
4, and
Okay.
the 5th one will be out in October. So
All right,
I'm excited.
congrats on that.
Mhm.
Okay, and then you decided, hey, I've had it with camping, and now I want to create another little town and call it Mermaid Bay.
Bay, I did. I made a beach up. There's not really a beach that close to Williamsburg, Yorktown, Jamestown, the historic triangle, but I needed one. So I kind of altered it and said, there's Mermaid Bay. And I always love the jobs in cozy mysteries. They have amazing careers. They are shopkeepers and knitters and bread makers and cupcake makers and
Mhm.
designers. I thought, I want I grew up in a beach town. I want to work in a little Christmas store at the beach. It's Christmas all year. What could go wrong? Yes, murder and mayhem does find the Christmas shop every once in a while, but
Yes, in the little town of Mermaid
I bet.
Bay.
Mhm.
I thought that sounded very sweet. Okay, so now you've again, you've you haven't put that series to bed, but you are venturing into a new series or have started a fourth. This is the fourth one,
Mhm.
and it's the Pearly Girls.
It is. This one was different for me. I'm Gen X, so I've always kind of been that middle generation at work and at school, and you know, boomers were the mentors, and those kids over there, they were millennials or Gen Ys or Gen Zs, and now it's like, wait, I'm still in the middle, but I'm heading toward the other end of the spectrum. Retirement is a lot closer than it used to be. And I always write the Gen Z kind of character. And it's like, wow, what if I go younger? But yet her grandmother's friends, who are they're boomers, always want to help her out. And they're all retired and either divorced or widowed. And they're having fun, and they do get in a lot more trouble than she does. She's technically the adult most days, and the response she has to bail them out of jail. I mean, they are just causing all kinds of trouble. They if they think of a good idea and they think they're going to get away with it, they try it.
But they're not the ones they're not the reason for the mystery. They just get involved in the mystery.
Oh, they're involved in everything. They think, they want to have a say in her love life, her business, because they work with her at the event planning business. They decorate and they do the flowers, and there's a serenity garden, and there's a chic a barn that they've done up with shabby chic for weddings and parties.
Mhm.
And they have a cave on the property, and she's still not sure what to do with it. So this is fun. And it was good for me to write the dynamics of a 20 something versus a 60 something, and how they see things differently. They're how they look at things differently.
So it sounds like there's a little bit of challenges that you overcome
Um,
in your writing, and you take on that challenge. You say, I
mm,
don't want to be repetitive here, so I'm going to mix up um, this next series and do something, the generational gap, things like that. So, what other challenges, do you take on as a writer? And I don't necessarily mean educating yourself on the craft, but more the creative ideas. Because you mentioned like
mhm.
cozy characters have great jobs. So what are some things that you've challenged yourself to say, either I want to learn more about this, to write about it appropriately, or to just improve, your characters.
Couple of things. Well, the research is great. I love the research. And if I always find something that's like a neat job, I'm like, oh, that is cool. I didn't know that was a job. Oh, wow. That's awesome. And it has to be something that the sleuth is not tied down to. So, I mean, usually she's a small store owner or small business owner, but she has to have that support group and those cast of characters that are around her that she can leave. And I mean, she can't be a surgeon who's scheduled for, I mean, I guess she could be, because
Hmm.
now there are some authors that are pushing the boundaries all over the place. There are sleuths that have kids, and there's sleuths that are single moms. Um, but I was looking for these fun jobs that I would like to have, which they give me an opportunity to research it and see it and visit these kinds of little stores and these events and go glamping and checking out some fun little things. And I know that the FBI or somebody is always looking at my search results. And my husband, we share the same Amazon account. So it's books, but then all of a sudden I'm looking for, oh, what are different kinds of knives that are out there? Or what are some different kinds of stemware that might be you could make into a weapon? Or And nobody's safe. I'm in constantly. I hear names, I hear little bits of dialogue, I hear terms. I'm always writing things down. I'll see little true crime stories that I'm like, that would be an interesting twist in a mystery. So nobody's safe. And
Well, I like
mhm.
that you explained that, like where some of your inspiration comes from, because I did read in one of my research, like I read a interview that you did, and you said
Uh,
ideas are everywhere, and I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
where are they?
Oh,
And I
they
yeah,
are.
but
Stuff will fall down. I mean, I go to Lowe's or the hardware store with my husband because he's trying to buy some part or something. And I'm like, that wrench is really heavy. I mean, that we're sitting by a car, you could, you know, heat of the moment, that could be a weapon. Or
Mhm.
I used this was very funny too. I was on a panel for Boucher Con with some thriller and suspense writers, and they were all talking about these horrible serial killers they had and things that they had written about. And they said, okay, how many murders do you average a book? And they're like, one, maybe two, three. And how many have you over your career? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And he goes, what? I said, he goes, you cozy writers are deadly. You poison people, you strangle people. I said, yeah, I've used Christmas lights to strangle somebody. I've used a whiskey barrel one time to hide a body.
Oh.
You just never know. You go to the winery and have a beautiful lunch and you think, that wine cast over there, that's pretty big and it's probably heavy. It
So your mind is always working.
is. It
Yeah,
is.
and,
It
uh,
is.
and so all these ideas that come to you, I how do you keep up with them? And if especially if it's like, "That's a great idea, but that's not the story I'm working on right now. I wanna put it aside to ponder later." How do you keep those organized?
It started out as sticky notes and they are everywhere. I mean, you'll go in my purse and it starts out as a grocery list and then there's check on cyanide at the bottom or, or how bad is that? Or where can you really get that? Or is that possible? Can you order it? What can you get that? Where can I find arsenic? And so my husband's used to it. He just knows it's, and people tell me now, they'll come up with stories or they'll see things and they'll go, hey, did you know? And this one did end up in the Mermaid Bay series, sort of. It wasn't as gory as it was in real life. It was a mafia hit up in New Jersey and they dismembered the body and put it in suitcases and tossed it over and they washed up on beaches.
Oh,
And I
wow.
thought, what would it be like to have something weird wash up on the beach at Mermaid Bay? And what washes up, they think it's bones, but you'll see if you read the story. But it is true. The tide goes all kinds of different places, and you never know what's going to wash up.
So, one of the things I was gonna ask you
Mm.
about is your clever, clever titles.
Thank you.
And so for that particular story, is that Sticks and Stones and a Bag of Bones?
It is. And the Mermaid Bay series, when I was proposing it to my agent and writing up the synopsis, I said, all right, these are all nursery rhymes gone bad. So we have Twinkle, Twinkle, Au revoir. We have a Tisket, a Tasket, Not Another Casket. And the one that comes out in January is Life is But a Scream.
Very, very clever.
Clever.
And even going back to the Delanie Fitzgerald series, there were some really clever titles in that. Glitter, Glam, and Contraband. I thought that was great. Secret Lives and Private Eyes.
Uh-huh, that was the first one.
Okay,
So
yeah.
you can
So
see the rhymey, cozy.
yeah,
There's cozy all over
yeah.
it.
And so going back to I want to talk about the Mermaid Bay. Just bring that back up for a second because you mentioned that there was this true situation that sparked an idea. Were you already contemplating Mermaid Bay, or was that the jumping off point of, oh, I could create this scenario but I need a place. I need to create the environment.
I had the idea. I knew I wanted a Christmas shop,
Mhm.
and then but I was going to take my stickies got out of control and they were everywhere. So being the IT girl that I am, I have a spreadsheet and then it started into tabs in my spreadsheet, ways to murder people, weapons, contacts, because that is the other part of the mystery community. We get to do programs with specialists. And so when you go to one of these meetings, it's like, she's a pharmacist, and she's a poison control expert, and he's a firearms expert. And they are so generous with their time, and they're so kind that if you have a question, I'll be glad to answer it.
Mm.
And I want it to be real, but I don't want anybody to ever get an idea that, oh, this is how I can murder somebody. So I want to be, you know, real enough to make it plausible. But yes, I'm going to get in trouble if anybody ever sees my spreadsheet and all the tabs in it. But yes, ideas, names, dialogue,
Mhm,
um, fun ideas. And there's some on there that may never make it to a mystery. But when
mhm,
I'm ready to start plotting again, I always go back and kind of flip through it and think,
mhm,
oh, and I need
mhm,
a sub arc in the story. I need another thing going on. So what
mhm.
if we use that as a red herring, which, throw in those fake clues every once in a while to keep people guessing.
So you said that you sometimes still teach or you're still involved in in somewhat. I can so see a a class, a workshop of how to organize using a spreadsheet, a
Oh, really?
simple Excel spreadsheet, how to organize your thoughts and your ideas and keep track of everything. Because I bet a lot of people, I'm one, I'm a note. I'll jot down a note and then I have to go back and find that note. And
Yes, and I had the
sometimes
note,
I
and I have lots
yeah.
of notebooks. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
I had to start, and it was just too much paper. Then I
Mhm.
started had I do a sort of a giant spreadsheet for each series because with 4 series, Jules and
Mhm.
Jade end up in each other's stories sometimes, and I always have to go and search to make sure they're in the right book. And um, what did I name the cat in that story? And
Mhm.
I know it was only there for a little bit, but I want to bring it back. Or what color was his eyes?
Mhm.
And what's her favorite food? And sometimes that helps me too because as a technical writer, that ruined me for fiction writing for a long time because you have to tell every step in order. And even the mundane ones, click here, type this, click this. And I found I was writing like that. And so a lot of the first drafts come out like that. So I have to go back and go, everybody knows what an airport is. I don't have to get her from the parking garage to the plane. I mean, we know what an airport is.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah,
and so
that
that helps. But I can write the backstory in my little biographies. I mean, and they do the main characters, their high school, what college, what year, where did they graduate, what
mhm.
clubs they were in. I mean, that might not ever make it to a story, but it helps me. I feel like I need to write that and know who she is.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great exercise, and the fact that you've answered one of my questions because
Hmm.
it was like, how do you have 4 active series and keep everything straight and not necessarily confuse, um, characters and situations and intermingle them accidentally? Because you already mentioned readers are smart and they remember things and they'll say, "Oh, she
Hmm.
had blue eyes in book 1, but now you just said she has green."
And
Like,
what happened?
so yeah, so they'll, um, pick up on things like that. I do it when I watch TV.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm watching a old Murder, She Wrote, and I'll say, that's not, that's not so and so's job, or last time she was on the show, she was realtor, or something like that,
Uh-huh.
and
Or
now
wait, yeah,
she's
that character's
now she's the
back.
mayor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
happened?
so we do that. We do, and not necessarily just readers, writers do it as well. I'm just saying that it is a
Hmm.
challenge, and that's one of the things that other writers have said is that they have some sort of system to organize, like
Hmm.
a series Bible, I think is what
Yeah.
it's often called, to keep up with everything. But those aren't necessarily people who have 4 going.
I write ahead. So usually by the time my agent has sold the series, I've written the 3 that are in the initial contract. So then I'm always looking for another project. So that's how,
Mhm,
okay, I'm gonna start the Pearly Girls. And then I've got one that I'm kind of noodling around now. That's
mhm.
another series, but we'll
Okay,
see what happens.
okay. So, regarding the Pearly Girls, I noticed that I am thinking that the titles are related to music.
Yes.
Is
Hmm.
that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
very good. Yeah.
What's the correlation to music in that series? Because this is the event planner
Hmm.
whose sidekicks are her grandmother's friends,
Hmm.
and she's inherited a business, and so where does the music, correlate with it?
It takes place. I made a fictitious town in
Mhm,
Virginia in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's on the I-81 corridor. And we go up that way. My sister lives in Winchester, so that's the route we usually take. And
mhm.
it's the old route before the highway for the interstate to Nashville. And a lot of the
Ah,
country western singers used to come through there going to Washington or other parts, east or, west.
mm,
And so the grandfather and his family owned a honky tonk on the property, and it was notorious. And that's where the Pearly Girls grew up, and they would all sneak in the honky tonk when they shouldn't have, and they met all these stars, and um, it burned down in the 80s. And so there's always talk about, oh, we need to keep the music tradition alive. And as the series goes on, and the one that comes out in January, Murder Plays Second Fiddle, we find out what happened to the honky tonk and why that music has always been important to her. I mean, the dog's name is Elvis, so I mean, so there's that. And I mean, Virginia had Patsy Cline and
mm,
a lot of the country western singers from the 40s and 50s.
mhm. And it does make sense, being an event planner, oftentimes music is part of an
Mhm.
event, whether it's in the foreground or the background, of an event. So it makes sense. I just didn't know if, like, uh, your main character, Cassidy, if she was a musician or something, and that was where the music was coming into play.
She's not, but that's a good thought though, because book two is getting ready to come out, and book three is Murder Wets Its Whistle. There's a whiskey bourbon conference in town.
Mhm. Yeah.
What could go wrong, right?
Exactly. Tell us what's you've kinda touched on it, but let's go through your series and tell us, like, if you have something planned for each series coming out. So we'll go back to Delanie. You said she's not gone yet. She's still a part of your life.
She is. She'll always be there. I mean, she was the first, so you just I always thought I would have five or six in that series, and I've written four. And so there's still some ideas, and there's some fun characters there. Her best paying client is a sleazy, sleazy strip club owner, and she's always tried to get rid of him, and he just keeps coming back like a bad penny. But he grows on you, and he's not horrible. I mean, he cat sits for his neighbor, so he's not an
Not
awful
all
person.
bad.
He's just sleazy. But a writer wrote to me one time and said, she should date him. And I'm like, oh no, 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 not Chaz. Not Chaz, not Chaz. But
So
that's always fun when
yeah.
people see them differently. Because I have a picture of her in my head and I built a
Mhm,
Pinterest board and that's what she looks like. And it's funny how when the artist does the cover, it's like, wow, I never thought of that. Or yeah, that's
mhm,
kind of how she looks. And
mhm. So right now she's good where she is. You're not
she's
you're
still
not
there.
plotting anything out for her. Okay, so the glamping mysteries, do you have something in the works for that one?
I do. There's one that comes out every year, and so
Oh,
there'll be nine total when that series finished.
wow.
And the same with the Mermaid Bay. So
Okay.
one comes out in January-ish, yeah, January, and then the other one comes out in October. And then the Pearly Girls come out in January as well. So
So in addition, so this perfect segue into what we're gonna talk next, because believe it or not, we are almost at an hour.
oh, this has been fun.
Which that always happens. These conversations typically fly by. You at first you think, how am I gonna fill an hour? And then before you know it, you're like, I haven't even asked everything I wanted to ask. So, you've told us a little bit, but I'd like a better understanding of a day in the life of Heather Weidner. In particular, how do you do a full-time job and write, especially when you're producing? Your output is really impressive. The number of books that you're able to and series you're keeping up with. And get them out. So what is a typical day in the life for you like?
It's scheduled. Everything is basically scheduled. But I had a sweet lady at church after the first book, Secret Lives, took 5 years to write and about
Mm.
another two to get published. She leaned over the pew and she said, I read it in one night. When's book two coming out? And I'm like, oh dear, I've got to write faster if this is the case. So actually, that was another good thing that came out of COVID. I know there wasn't many good things that came out, but we worked from home almost, it was over 2 years actually. And I said,
Mhm.
all right, I don't have the hour commute to work in the morning. I don't have the hour commute in the afternoon. And I don't, lunch I can eat at my desk if I really wanted to. That's fine. So that's 3 hours a day. So I said, I'm going to use that time every day and see what I can do. And I'm also a plot. The spreadsheets, I plot. I have to know what's going to happen because I do write in increments. I get up at 5. So I'm one of those weirdos that gets up at 5, holidays, weekends. It's just, I'm a morning person. I write until 7:30 until work starts. And then there's work if there's a work day. And then I write at lunch. And if I hit my word count, I'm done. And so with my schedule, if I do 3,000 words a day during holidays and weekends, and then if I do 1,000 on work days, I can get a first draft in 2, 3 months, which is a whole lot better than 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Mhm.
So your goal is 3,000 a day? 3,000 words?
On a weekend or a off
Oh,
day. No,
okay.
work days, it's 1,000.
It's 1,000.
Mhm.
Okay. And do you still get to work from home?
A couple, we're hybrid now. So a couple
Okay.
days a week, I do get to work from home.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so on those days, yeah, I typically write more on those days, so I hit the 1,000 from the previous day, but that's
Mhm.
okay. And I try to give myself some grace and some slack. If I don't hit it, it was a bad day, or I didn't feel like writing, or something came up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That is definitely, I that I'm just wondering how you have a day job and you can write as much as you do, but you just explained it. It's discipline and commitment. Good
and that
job.
was the best advice I got from, well, I got two. One was Mary Burton. She was in our chapter, and she says, you're going to get sucked into social media and blogs and events, and you're going to be
Mhm.
doing these things and book signings. Write your next book. And so whatever her answer was, write your next book. And she's
Mhm.
right. I mean, you need to, because you can get caught up in just life. I mean, just
Mhm.
television, books you want to read. And Alan Orloff is in the Chessie chapter of Sisters in Crime, and he gave me BICFOK. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Big fuck. I don't
Gotta
know.
write this down. Okay.
BICFOK, and it's backside in chair, fingers on keyboard.
Like it.
And he's right. He's right. That is the only way to get a first draft that you can edit and you can fix and you can send a critique group is
Mhm.
to just write it. And I spent way too much time on the first novel rewriting chapters and rewriting paragraphs and rewriting sentences.
Mhm. Well, and you also brought up a really good point in your and what we were just talking about is there's more to being a writer than actually writing the book. There's all the things after the book is written that you have to do. And we didn't even talk about like how much time that must take and how do you navigate that again going back to the fact that you have a full-time job?
It's tough sometimes, but those are sometimes my tasks when I don't feel like writing or I'm researching or if I'm in between books because I don't, I mean, I write
Mhm.
every day, but it may be a blog or it may be something
Mhm.
else. My husband likes sports a lot, and that seems to be TV time on weekends or evenings. So it's like, fine, I will multitask and I will do my social media while that. I also schedule a lot of it with Instagram and Facebook and some of the other sites you can schedule,
Mhm.
blogs.
So you like maybe prepare it in advance and then you schedule it to post?
I do. Usually
Yeah,
Friday mornings are my
okay,
scheduled time. So I spend a couple hours every Friday scheduling
right.
posts, and
Mhm,
some of it's ad hoc when I'm just responding like at lunch or something.
mhm,
But a lot of the ones that are steady are the ones that are
mhm.
scheduled.
Well, this has been
Uh,
a fascinating conversation. I think you are an excellent example for writers, especially aspiring writers, that number one, it can be done. You don't have to wait until you retire. If you have a story, start writing it. Um, great points. And we were talking about you as a writer and introducing the audience to your books and hopefully getting those books off the shelf.
Oh, thank you.
But I think there was a lot of valuable information in here as well
Oh,
for writers to tune in and be inspired. So thank you so much
oh,
for
thank you for
sharing
having me.
so
And I
much.
was 40 when I got my first piece published. So, yeah, start early if you really are interested in it. I just didn't have the confidence at 22 to try it.
Mhm. Yeah. No, and it makes sense. And then also having that gap of like, oh, it took me 5 years to write this. And, at the like I can imagine what was going through your head, like, oh, if it takes 5 years, then 2 to actually get it out the door, I might write, 6 books in my lifetime, right? So you
Mhm.
said, no, that's not for me. I'm gonna knock it out of the park. And I think you did.
Oh, thank you all so much. Y'all are so much fun.
Well, we have another program on Off the Shelf with Sisters in Crime. Aside from Off the Shelf, we have a program that we have nicknamed or called Murder by the Book. And
Ah,
it's once a month. We get together by Zoom, and it's for readers, and of course, writers can come. But what we're there to talk about is what we've been reading and how we liked it, whether or not we would recommend it. And so, as a intro to this audience, if they're unfamiliar with Murder by the Book, would you please share something that you have read recently that you enjoyed, or maybe you didn't enjoy, but something that you've read that you recommend? And it doesn't have to be recent. It can just be something like, this is a book that if you're going to read a book, this is a book to read.
oh, there are so many. And I'm still a voracious reader. So I just finished Eat 'em and Weep by Linda Riley, and that was it's a great series. Her sleuth is a grilled cheese shop owner. And who doesn't love grilled cheese? Which I'm sure there are some people, but that just caught my eye, and I do love her series.
Mhm.
Who else I read? It was a dark and stormy murder, and that was Laura Bradford. That was a new series to me. It's been out for a while, and she gets her dream job, her sleuth, as an assistant to this famous author who lives in this spooky kind of house, and
Mm.
that house actually has secrets too. So it that was a lot of fun.
That sounds good. That sounds like up my alley.
Yeah, those are
All
great. But I
right.
read suspense too. My favorite latest author for suspense is S.A. Cosby, Sean
Oh,
Cosby.
yeah.
And he
Absolutely.
is amazing. They're
Yeah.
gritty and they're dark, and I have to go back and read Puppies and Kitties after reading one of his, but they're awesome.
That's how I started reading cozies, because I was reading Dennis Lehane and Karen
Yes.
Slaughter, and I was like,
Yes.
"Okay, I need a break.
Hmm.
I need a break. I still wanna read this genre, but I need a break."
And aren't they good for that? You can just slip
Yeah.
one in, and yeah,
You
it's
do.
perfect.
Yeah, they're usually, quick reads too. Like, you don't have to say, "Okay, I gotta put this down and step away from," and then
Mhm.
3 days later go back and pick it back up. Like a cozy, you can, because as you said, there's, certain, parts of it that are just not overly graphic. And so you can read it and keep going. So, yeah. Mhm.
Good.
So, Heather, thank you so much for
Oh,
joining us today. Thank you for sharing your book recommendations. And again, thank you for everything you told us about your series, as well as writing tips, even if that was not the intention
that's okay.
of this conversation. Before we sign off, I just want to talk about the different programs that Sisters in Crime Atlanta has coming up. I had already mentioned our Murder by the Book program, which is every first Saturday of the month. And at 10 a.m., it's by Zoom. And all of this information is available on our website, sistersincrimeatlanta.com. Just spell it out, all one word. The next Murder by the Book is going to be Saturday, September 6th, again, 10 a.m. by Zoom. Our monthly chapter meeting is typically a hybrid, so you can join us online or in person at the DeKalb County Public Library in Decatur. That will be Saturday, the 13th. We start at 10:30. Our presenter for September is Jennifer Vance with Books Forward, and she's talking about the mysteries of marketing, or rather, there that it's not hard to. I'm butchering this. I apologize. That there's, it's not mysterious. Marketing is not mysterious. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, and then our September off the shelf is going to be with author Mary Anna Evans, and that will be on uh, the 27th, and that's also by Zoom, and it is at 10 o'clock Eastern. And then coming up in November, we have our annual in-person all day long writing workshop, and this year's theme is demystifying mystery writing. There's going to be several authors that are leading the panels. We've got Bobby Nash, Thomas Mullen, Peggy Earhart, and our very own chapter member Linda L.M. Whitaker. So again, get your information on our Sisters in Crime Atlanta.com website or our Facebook page. So Heather, once again, thank you very much. This recording will be available on our website as well as our YouTube channel. Angela, can you end